Welcome, dirty peasants, to episode 76 of Wartwood Gazette, the Amphibia podcast. This week's recording, we'll be talking about our picks for the most underrated segments of Amphibia. I'm your host, Nabaticon, and joining me today we have Impact
Yo, what's good, everybody?
and Nick.
Yo, what's up?
All right, thanks guys for coming on. This week it's May 5th, which is we're not too far from like the 1 year since the hardest thing aired, the Amphibia finale, and
We're one day away from the All In
Oh
anniversary.
shit.
oh,
Yeah,
oh,
that's crazy.
yeah. I don't think there's any news this week, but I do remember someone gave Matt like a plush of like a Bessie plush figure, which was cute.
I thought like he just showed off his Bessie plush. I didn't think he gave it to someone.
Oh, I thought someone gave it to him to Matt, but yeah, like I'm not sure.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
I mean, if I could buy that, I would. I think. Oh, I remember the Polly plush was on sale, but I feel like every recording we bring up like the Matt, like Matt signing the Marcy Journal thing for June. So
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're just
I
waiting
feel
on
like
that.
it's like everyone's like,
Yeah,
oh, it's coming in
yeah,
June. It's almost
yeah.
there.
We're just
One of
waiting
these
on
days.
By the time the recording comes out, it will be. Oh, it's gonna be early June, so we still won't know anything at this point. To be honest, I don't know, but if there is, we will talk about it, and you'll hear it probably a month later, but it's fine. This is how we stay consistent. But news aside, um, I guess we can go like right into our picks. So basically, what Impact Nick and I did was that we each came up with two underrated segments. We didn't tell each other yet. Um, so I don't know if one of us ends up having like the same pick. I have a backup for myself, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. um, Would anyone like to start? I don't mind starting, but
I
You,
say you go. You go ahead though. You go.
yeah, you go first though.
okay.
Alright.
Okay, so
Yeah.
my first pick for underrated episodes is Flood, Sweat, and Tears. Now,
Ooh, okay.
so I just think like this was like the episode where we don't really have Anne and Sprig. Like we'll see Anne and Sprig kind of argue in like episodes of the show, but not really like the episode doesn't really focus on them being pitted against one another, except for Flood, Sweat, and Tears, which is like very early. This is episode 2 of Amphibia. And like minor nitpick aside, I wish we had more episodes like this to kind of like have Anne and Sprig become close, like become close friends. But the segment kind of starts off with them already like buddies, and then kind of like puts them at odds with one another, like living together. But I think this was an episode like that Amphibia needed early on and gave to us, and I just like looking back at thinking about this episode again. It's like very rare to see an episode like focused on Anne and Sprig kind of like at odds with one another, and I just think it becomes more kind of like authentic in their like relationship as best friends. Like that we got at least had some episodes where they're like kind of just like having this kind of petty squabble. But what do you guys think? Or I guess starting with Nick, what do you think about that?
I mean, honestly, I mean, I really don't disagree with anything you just said. I think I definitely just Yeah, I'm really just here to air how you feel about how you would have loved just more early episodes like this that just focused on like laying down the foundations of Anne and Sprig's relationship. Because yeah, I won't lie, I think there's this really sort of unique charm to this series at the very start where they're just trying to feel out these characters and just go for like, the very simplest plots they could to just, bring out just these great moments between them. You know what I mean? Like I think yeah, I do think that's something that like when that family is sort of like quote unquote fully formed. I do think that's something that's just sort of like I don't know. There's just something like I won't say lost, but I don't know. If you just go back and watch those first few episodes, there's like there's just this feeling they create in you that I think that only remains there, and that's not present in any other place of the series.
And Impact, what are your thoughts on Flood, Sweat, and Tears?
Floods. I really like Flood, Sweat, and Tears too. Like I feel like so. You're absolutely right in the fact that like Anne and Sprig don't really have a lot of like butting heads with each other. Mainly, usually the conflict with them comes around what they're doing together against other characters, right? And it's interesting because Anne as a person doesn't really understand like how to handle conflict, and Sprig doesn't either, right? Because he hasn't had like, well, I mean, the show says it like, like in the first episode, the Sprig didn't have a ton of friends, but like then we meet Ivy, so it's like, but whatever. Anyways, like, point is that Sprig doesn't really understand how to handle conflict, and Anne thinks conflict is bad. She tries to avoid it, right? Every single time she did, Sasha would like tell her to shut up and listen, and Anne would be like, okay, I guess, like for the entire friendship. So I think this was sort of the first point where both of them have to kind of learn how to deal with that with each other, and they kind of view conflict poorly. And I think it's also unique because usually conflict between the Planter family is with like Anne and Hot Pop. That's like the more consistent thing in like season one, and then we get to season two. There's always more static with them, but like with Anne and Sprig, it's like pretty consistently pulled together. And I think to a certain degree, I kind of like that Anne and Sprig don't fight each other too much. It doesn't feel like Anne and Sprig is this relationship that like they need to fight to make it work. You know what I mean? They already like each other already. And like I think that's why they don't fight. What's the word? Like I think that's one of the reasons why they don't want to handle conflict because they've been working together not for like that long, but like they feel like they should already be really good friends after the first episode that like what's the word? Like they don't really think there should be conflict. So I don't know. Like I agree with your point that Flood Certain Tears is very unique. I'm not sure if I wanted necessarily more of it. Not too much more of it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want like a whole season one of and Sprig like not liking each other because I think I like them on the same team, but I like Anne and Hot Pot not being on the same team for a while. I like that conflict between them because it gives like Anne a chance to kind of like express her thoughts about home to Hot Pop and blah blah blah, and then there's conflict in season two, and then that conflict adds to the relationship season three. So yeah,
Okay, thank you, Impact. And yeah, like I was kind of debating if I should make consider this underrated because like this is the episode where we got like Spran against the world, but like I feel like
I didn't know that.
outside of that
I don't
moment,
know. It was the
like
first time.
outside of that moment, I don't really see the episode discussed or talked about that much. But like, I guess kind of like the character stuff aside, like this episode's like hilarious. Just like, cause like Impact said earlier, like Anne doesn't want to like start conflict and Sprig doesn't know how to like deal with it. So it's like they're just being like passive aggressive. Like they start off being kind of like indifferent, and then they start getting kind of like passive aggressive with one another.
Yeah, that just the yeah,
And then
and like it's
like Hop Pop
oh you keep
knows
going.
like Hop Pop like gives out like a little like tangent or rant about his past roommates.
Yeah, and it's like I think the best part was like when because I love how Anne doesn't like she's like trying to talk to like Sprig in his sleep the whole time, and Sprig is just not. He's not. He's pissed off, but he's not saying anything. He wants to
Oh, that moment was
just
like,
like
cause like
he
actually,
wants his friendship
I really
to
love that
stay.
moment. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Impact.
No. I was done. Keep going.
Oh, like I really love that moment where like, yeah, Anne's like trying to like earlier on, like Anne's like talking to Sprig, and Sprig kind of just like going along with it, but then later on, like Anne, I think Anne looks at her phone to kind of like the photo of her and Sprig, and kind of like wants to try and be like buddies with him, but like he's like not having any of it, and like it was kind of sad, like seeing Sprig that like that pissed off, like
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
blame him
oh,
though. I mean, like
yeah,
I
I didn't
didn't.
even realize. Yeah, you're right.
oh
Yeah, Sprig was ice cold, man. I forgot that was kind of ice cold. It was ice cold.
but the moment with Anne eating the chips and Sprig giving that look, that was hilarious.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, yeah, no, yeah, it's so easy to forget that some episodes are just like actually downright hilarious. Like they have like so many easy to clip moments.
Yeah, when Anne like destroys like Anne's. I mean, when Anne destroys Sprig's like doll or whatever, that was
Action
funny.
figure.
His great action figure, yeah, huge difference. His action figure, like Sprig is like so angry that he can't get angry. Like
Oh yeah, the I
it's
need to go to
great.
the bathroom. Oh that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he just and then he just like runs into the basement.
Yeah, and they're both trying to fix the leak, and they both say like, "What was
Yeah,
the
Jesus.
line?
Yeah.
Like you came down here to fix the leak, like something. Well, so did you. Like that was
Yeah,
great,
man,
and the
they
animation's
were
really good on that
chosen.
part
Yeah,
for some reason.
also, yeah. I feel like they really try. It's funny. I feel like they really yeah because they really tried to rub in that scene that those are just both. I don't know. That just feels like such a childish line for Anne too. Like I don't know. It's funny. I feel like you didn't. I guess that sort of also shows us how much Anne matured over the series. Because I don't know, man. I'm just like remembering how Brenda Song's voice. Like, so I kind of changed the subject, but like, just it's weird because you know how Justin. How do you say his last name? Justin Field. I can't. I'm sorry. I'm gonna like. I can't say it, but like Sprig's voice actor. Like, it's great how he. Yeah, Felbinger. It's great how his voice. You know how it like naturally matures over the series, but like Brenda's songs does too. Like I don't know if it was something directed by Matt or just something that happened naturally, but like seriously, just compare to how she'll read lines in like in 3A to how she'll read lines in like season one. Dude, it's like night and day. I'm not even joking. Like
Yeah, like it's. I'm not even sure how to describe it. Like I feel like this Brenda was getting used to Anne, like at a certain like. I mean, of course she has to. She's constantly voicing the character for a long time, but like I don't know, like I can't describe it, but yeah, you're right. Like there's a certain like I can't I don't know how to pinpoint it, but it definitely feels different. Like
yeah, no, yeah,
for
absolutely.
her.
Like I'll say this, it feels like one side it's leaning into Anne being 13 years old. The other side is actually leaning to the intended like 15 to 16 to 17-year-old range. Like I'll say that. Like that's how it feels to me. That's how it feels to me. Because I'm like looking back, I'm like, wow, yeah, it really did feel like an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old having like adventures together. Like just I don't know, like looking back and seeing all that.
I think it might also because like well like if we compare Dree Ann for a sec, like I mean like character wise, she seems much older. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? She's acting a lot more adult. So like I feel like in that scene specifically, like that's definitely the point where Anne feels more like her OG age, like what she was supposed to be. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So like, yeah. I think it
Yeah.
might be like Brenda Song both getting better with the character and just how the character is written in that season, just kind of fusing into one there.
Yeah,
So
I mean, could there be like a meta analysis, like someone just like so much of Amphibia is people imprinting their will on Anne and her actually figuring out like who she wants to be. Could there be like a meta analysis? Like we're like Disney, we're like Disney is just like Sasha and how they mandated her to be 13 years old, but then like when she eventually becomes like her true self, like I don't know, she starts acting like their intended original age. I don't know. I feel like someone could do, I'm putting it down. I'm laying down the pieces. I feel like someone could do something with that.
I feel like to a certain degree, like it's weird because like Sasha and Marcy, like I feel like they feel 16 all the time. I never got Sasha doesn't feel 13. I don't know what
Yeah.
it is. Like and Marcy too. Like they both always felt a bit older. And like I feel like with Marcy, like it's I can't pinpoint why she does. Why she I thought she felt like she was older than Anne. I don't I don't know why. Something about it was like maybe because like Marcy is like constantly telling Anne what to do in season 2 a bit. Like she's not being like Sasha like being a dick about it, but like she is kind of just like in a way Anne is kind of just listening to her for most of it. It's a lot more of a healthy relationship in that regard, but like it I don't know, like there's something about it where Marcy felt 16 too. So, but yeah.
I know I know Impact. You kind of talked a lot about 3A. Do you have a 3A episode as your underrated episode, or should
I
we?
yeah, I do.
Should I,
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
do you want to share? Or should I should
all
I
right.
go
Let's
with
see it. Let's
Nick?
see it.
Oh, okay, we're going with Impact then.
Um yeah, we'll go with me. So for a while it was kind of hard for me to pick exactly what episode I wanted to go for like not even like 3A, just like in general cuz I wasn't super sure like what episodes specifically were underrated, but like for if I'm gonna pick one from 3A, and this was a tough one because it was the battle between three of them. I'm gonna go with Fight at the Museum. I think this episode's probably like one of the like the weirder ones because I feel like you could say to a certain degree like a lot of 3A episodes are underrated, but I think it's more like in like a blob. When people talk about like 3A, they don't really talk about a specific episode, they talk about it in a chunk. Like it's never about like specifically what this episode adds to Anne's character or what it does specifically for 3B. It's just like 3A is just a blob, and then like Turning Point and Olivia and Yunan are like their own thing. But anyway, I won't get into that. Um, but yeah, Find the Museum is really cool because I think like it was sort of the episode I was expecting out of 3A when first getting into it. It's pretty much exactly what I wanted Anne's arc to be. Like, how do I explain it? So like Anne's problem in this episode is that she's overworking herself to try to get to Amphibia, right? And that's really interesting because it's kind of like a reversal of Anne's problems in season 1. In season 1, she's trying to learn how to be responsible and take responsibility of her actions. And like responsibility is a big thing of Anne's arc in season 1, right? And she learns that throughout her time in Amphibia, but then season 3 happened, where now Anne is almost like using her lessons to Amphibia in almost a negative degree. So like Anne is overworking herself too hard. She's not trusting Dr. Jan with helping her out with anything, right? So Anne's problem in this episode is the balance of responsibility. She has to learn to find like a middle ground between her lessons in Amphibia and sort of has to like find a bit of like humility, if that makes sense, where she starts off like new normal, like with this fake sense of confidence, but then slowly through the season, through episodes like Fight at the Museum and Exterminator, right, Escape to Amphibia, she starts kind of like finding a balance between those lessons in the narrative. So Fight at the Museum gives a chance for Anne to find the balance of responsibility. And it'll play a part in Temple Frogs too. But I always found that as a really interesting part of Anne's arc as a character. And then you have Cloakbot that's really fun too, because as a villain, what's interesting about him is that he only shows up when ultimately Anne is handling her responsibilities the wrong way. So it's a fun representation of Anne having a flaw of handling those responsibilities the right way. I feel like I'm saying responsibility like 500 times.
Responsibility is a huge part of our arc. Like that's all. It's fair game.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Cloakbot only shows up in Fight at the Museum to Anne's Terminator because of Anne's mistakes in the story. Pretty much, I guess Anne's Terminator, you could say it isn't in a way, but it's a little different. But still, like ultimately, like in this episode specifically, like he shows up because Anne is being like not wanting to trust Dr. Jan and not wanting to get her help and wanting to handle all this shit on her own. So like, yeah, and that's great. And I think like another addition to this too is I think the planters are done pretty well here too. I feel like in 3A sometimes the planters can like, what's the word? Like they can like blend in to each other sometimes. Like it's a little weird. Like if you watch Hop Till You Drop and like or any episode, not necessarily Hop Till You Drop, but like any episode where they're not the main focus, they can kind of like blur together, and it's a little weird. But I think Fight at the Museum has a good balance of Anne still being the leader of the family while still also having the planters feel individual, especially when we get to the heist. So I think that was kind of the best way of using the 3A dynamic, and that was really fun. So, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else because I know there's one more thing I have to say. No, that's it. So that's my take on like Pride the Museum is really fun. I think it plays a big part into Anne's arc in this season, and no one talks about it. So yeah, that's my underrated episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like that was like all around solid. Like I have no notes. I don't know what to say.
Like, because like I'm not hearing this for the first time. Because like when I'm thinking like, oh, people talk about Fight at the
Yeah.
Museum, and then I remembered like, well, I remember Impact's thoughts on it. I remember the write up he did on it.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
So it's like, but like, but
Like, hold on. Also, Impact. Yeah, you were here. Yeah, you were here for the recording, right? Yeah, you're for sure you were here for that recording too when we talked about Fight at the Museum, right?
No, I wasn't. I was
Oh, you
not.
what?
No, I wasn't. I
Damn,
wasn't.
bro.
Yeah, I
Impact was
wasn't
still
even there.
he was still a listener at the time, and I think did you
Yeah.
Wait,
did you come on
what was
during
Impact's
3B?
debut? I can't even. What was it? No, it couldn't be. No, I sure it was 3A. It was no.
I came in
like
like what was the episode?
wait,
It was the
maybe it was like
Tritonio one.
yeah.
Like
Wait, no, what? No way. No, Tritonio one. Oh, you mean combat camp? I was going to say like no
yeah,
way.
combat camp. Yeah,
Okay.
because then
All
I
right,
came
that's
in.
it.
I was during 3B time pretty much.
Oh, because
So,
I
like,
remember
wasn't here
because
during
you talked
3A.
about because I remember you talked about Fight at the Museum while like when you were introduced on Combat Camp.
Yeah, like I remember.
Oh
Yeah, bro.
yeah.
I remember you were like the OG Fight at the Museum stand. I was like, I was like, yeah, he was on the recording, right? Like he was like, you ask for a good announcement on the episode, you go to Impact. So I was like, huh, really? Okay, that's surprising because I'm like, I'm it just I just feel like you've been here since like day one. Like, if I'm being honest. Wait, that's like mind blowing to me. What? Oh, so I guess you joined in during the hiatus
Yeah,
between 3A and
Yeah.
3B?
yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, I guess because we were finishing off.
The season
We
1
were finishing
episodes.
off the season 1 episode. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's starting to make some sense. Now that's starting. Yeah, because that's when like Sunsphere got in too, right? Like
Yeah.
around that time. Yeah.
When we were covering the 1B episodes, and then we got a little bit into season 2 before the rest of the show came back for season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, good times. But all right, that's enough nostalgia. All right. I guess we can go on to mine if y'all want to do that.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
All
sure.
right. I guess all right. So mine, okay, originally, I won't lie, I was gonna do Kraken Mrs. Croker, but I was like, nah, I was like, that's too easy. It's too easy. It's too easy. So yeah, no, I just want to talk about another one of my favorites. Just like Breakout Star. Like that's just one of my favorites to go back to
Oh shit.
in 1A. Yeah, just because I'll admit this episode isn't like it isn't really hated, but it's only known for like that one scene where Anne's just like, well, they're talking to Anne, they're trying to convince her to like, give up this whole simple star thing, but but then she just goes like, what'd she say? She's like, I can't abandon my fans. And they're like, what is that? Then like, what is my fans? And then like she has a dumbass look in her face, and Paul's like, I don't want to be on this planet anymore. And it's like, to me, that was like to me, yeah, that's like the only thing people remember this episode for. Like, it's the only time I ever see this episode quoted. So to me, there's just like so many knockout aspects about it. Like, I'll just say, like, I mean, for one, yeah, obviously you can just say her relationship with Wartwood, just how that has changed and developed over time. How she, at this point, she's still basically an outsider, pining for that attention. But I think beyond that, to me, you can also just see it so you can see it on like so many levels for me. Like I think like to me like the biggest thing is just the ending of the episode because I think that's where it sort of seals the deal with Anne and her relationship with the Planters. I think this is the episode. I know Thumb's like, but Anne versus Wild. Anne versus Wild, right? He's like Anne versus Wild, but like I'm telling you, this is the episode where Anne's like, man, the Planters are actually they aren't bad. Like they're pretty all right. I think this is the turning point in season one. Like, which is what I wish more people would notice this, but this is the turning point in season one where she finally actually wants to be a planter. And on top of that, this is also just like shit. Where I have this stuff written down. Oh yeah, let me see. See. Yeah, no. I'll also just say, like, yeah, where her arc's going in season one as well. Like, just that desire to be like, I don't know. That's all I got.
To be
That's
liked?
all I
Is that
got.
what you mean?
To be like, yeah,
Like
to be like, yeah, to be like that. I mean, that's all I got. But I'll just say, yeah, I guess. Also, I mean, it just has funny ass jokes. Like, I'll admit that. I'll admit that. Like, I'm still like, just that one scene where they're running away from that crowd, and I think Hop Hop's like, I'll sacrifice myself. But he's like, then he's just like, fly, you fools. Then he gets crushed, and then Paul's just like, oh, he'll be fine. And yeah, that's a funny scene. But I think like overall, yeah, no, I think this episode, I think it's just funny because it's this episode is either seen as like a blah, what a dumb, gross out episode, or it's like so I'm sorry, I'm just now thinking like Anne rubbing butter all over her face, but it's either seen as like a dumb, gross out episode, or it's just seen as like just known for that one funny moment. But like, no, it's a surprisingly big part of the season that has honestly just some major turning points for Anne's character. I mean, this is like this is what makes her desperate to be led by the Planters and Anne versus Wild. Like this is it. Like because she pretty much abandons them, but like they don't abandon her. Like when she's at her lowest, when she's back to feeling like a complete loser, they're still there to pick her back up. Like this is what seals the deal. Like it's funny, but like yeah, it's a very specific episode like this. So to me, yeah, I don't know. I would have loved for it to just get its graces, but I mean we'll see. I'm always crossing my fingers for the future, but that's all I got for it.
you know what? One thing I really want to add about this episode too is like I think one thing this episode does really good with is like because Anne's the thing about Anne in season one is that her self-worth is determined by what other people think of her. So what she tries to do is try to change herself for other people so they'll like her. So I think this episode's interesting because Anne ultimately gets her want of the town actually liking her, but like she ultimately changes herself for other people. Because it's kind of like a thing with the girls, like and like changes herself for other people, so then they like her. Sasha tries to manipulate people so she has power over them. Marcy tries to change like the world itself so people like her. Blah blah blah. So it's an interesting thing where like I think this episode establishes more of like Anne's problem where she's always trying to get and I think to a certain degree Toe Tax does it too. But I think this episode is like Anne ultimately wants like her self-worth is determined by others. So she's trying to always change herself for other people. So I think this episode is an interesting like showcase of that problem. And like, yeah, I don't know. I thought that was interesting about it too. So I just wanted to add that there.
Yeah, no,
Nick,
because I think. Oh, sorry, okay, Thumb, you go ahead. Honestly, you haven't had a chance to speak, Thumb. You go ahead.
you had me until you brought up Anne versus Wild in my in
Yeah,
my
what's up?
in
What's
my
up? What's
home.
up? What's up?
In my
What you
home,
got? What you
Nick.
got?
You brought up Anne versus Wild. No, but like I agree. Like yeah, Breakout Star is definitely an underrated episode. I think yeah, the way Anne gets kind of like the town's affection in this episode isn't really authentic. And then she kind of sees like that scene where she kind of like overhears Polly and Anne, sorry, Polly and Sprig kind of talking about Anne when she's like with under like Toadstool's thumb, and like Hop Up talking about how like they need to support her, and like that's when Anne kind of like knows they're like that's when Anne kind of realizes that she was being kind of like an arrogant person to like the people who've been like looking after
The
her
jerk.
up until this point.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it is very like rewarding to see her kind of like reject that like fame for them. And yeah, there are like really funny jokes in this episode, like the Hop getting like taken by the
Yeah,
crowd, and yeah, the
yeah.
Lord of the Rings
He's like,
reference.
fly, you
And then
fool.
Polly's just like
Like, really
normal
funny.
about everything. And
He's like, whatever.
was this the one where? Oh yeah, this is the one where it's like the very end of the episode, where, like Ansel has the key, and then like Hobbob's like, "Oh, like I'm gonna get some bubbles in my pants." He was like, "I can't wait to feel those bubbles in my pants," and
In my
and the segment ends.
That was great.
But yeah, thinking what else? Like, I would say, okay, I like how this episode, she kind of like cares what the town thinks, but then kind of like gives it up to support the planners. And then we kind of get this kind of episode. I don't want to say it's like a rehash, but it's kind of like a different spin on this later in Anne versus Wild, when it's like Anne trying to impress the planners. But I'll kind of leave it at that because this is more about like Breakout Star. Um, take that, Nick.
Nah.
But I'm trying to think what else in this episode. Uh, oh, didn't Toady have like a little door for himself?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was like, I think she would like ring a bell or something to summon him. Like, I can't remember. Yeah, no, it was pretty. Yeah, Toadie's whole thing was weird. But yeah, I guess he was there.
Toady
Whole
is
thing was
weird
weird.
in general, man.
Tony, yeah, he is a very odd man.
Yeah.
So, any more thoughts on Breakout Star?
It is better than Anne versus Wild. I'm just kidding.
Yo, where's that
Yo.
timeout
I'm gonna
button?
be
Where
crazy.
is that?
I'm not crazy to say that, but yeah, I mean, it's one of. I mean, shit. If he had more than two options, I mean, I mean, I also just mentioned like a possible backup choice, but I think like shit. I mean, if there's a way for me to have like four options, I would have just done like a double feature. I would have been like, uh, was it? Yeah, shit. It was like, how am I forgetting the name? How? you know the dominoes. What is it? It was like domino
The
something, right?
domino.
The domino
Yeah, the
effect.
domino effect and taking charge. Like if I could have like done a double feature, I would have talked about those two because like I think I've talked about it on the podcast
Oh,
before, but
I
I
would
think
have.
like I think what I loved about those two were just it was just like the connective theme of like of Anne just bringing stuff from home to the planters and them just like just how they react. Honestly, yeah, just how they react to it as a family. Just and I don't know. I always just loved that. Like it's just
Nick
I'm
is.
telling you, it's just those. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Nick. Is this your second choice?
No, no.
Oh, okay,
Those
okay.
two, like, if there was a way for me to have like four choices, I would have been like, I would have like put pick those two as like a package or something. But like, yeah, no, like I was just saying, like, man, I mean, I'm just saying this before we transition, but I just wanted to shout out those two episodes real quick. Like yeah, like, is it the domino effect or is it the domino theory? I forgot.
Domino effect.
It's
Yeah, the
domino.
domino effect and taking charge. Like, yeah, they both have that connective theme of and bringing something. I don't know, just bringing some kind of love of hers from Earth to the planters, and just how that pushes their relationships forward or just develops Anne as a person. Like it's just I don't know. You got something that just does really well for Anne. You got something that just does really well for Hop Hop. Like I don't know, two really good episodes, lots of great comedy. Like I think like that, especially I'm gonna say, especially in the domino effect, like there's just some really stellar expressions coming out of Anne. Like it's just I don't know, just all around two really good episodes, but that's what I got.
Okay. So before we go
Okay.
into our second choices, Sticks, I know you want to kind of hop in, and what's one of your picks for an underrated episode?
Oh man. Well, first of all, thank you for letting me speak tonight. Secondly, I love. Well, I haven't been here for too long during the call, but I love the amount of praise that's being given to season one specifically. There are a lot of very underrated episodes from season one, and I'm about to, well, name one of them. Uh, I think what's funniest right now is that, one person was talking about Anne versus Wild, and another was talking about Breakout Star. I was having my own little doesn't matter, Uncle Ben. Toe tag's better than both of them moment. 'Cause-
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh my God, toe tags. Like to transition in a let's say more relevant and meaningful way from the episodes that were being previously discussed. I feel that absolutely Breakout Star is when Anne decides she actually wants to like stay with the planters in a significant way, and uh, shoot, what was the other episode that was? Yeah, Anne versus Wild.
Yeah.
Anne versus Wild is when she wants to not only stay, she actually wants to be part of their family.
Yep.
So it's this incremental growth in how much she not only like wants to be with them, but just ends up loving them more and more, and that is reciprocated. And I feel that in terms of her arc, Anne's first true point of no return is toe tax. Um, you could argue that it's reunion, but I feel that specifically due to the fact that Sprig gave Anne that last push in finally like standing up against Sasha. If it weren't for the events of toe tax, both because of the toads telling Sasha that Anne was there, but also because um, that was when Anne first truly like made the decision on her own to step in and be kind of like a hero, as Sprague puts it later on, because um, uh, of course she's being like pressured throughout the entire episode, but and eventually she kind of reaches that breaking point when they're about to steal Bessie away from the planters. Um, but she's the one who like screams, "No, stop! I'm putting my foot down." For probably the first time in her life, or at the very least in a very very long time. I really think it's an episode that people don't think about in terms of how meaningful it is for her and her relationship to her found family, but also just in terms of how consequential it ends up being, narratively speaking.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I feel like because toe tax is kind of that interesting point where Anne figures out like what's the word? Like she figures out like what kind of person she really wants to be and whose respect does she want to like have. You know what I mean? What I love about like when she goes up against Bog and the other toads is that like she's not doing it to like get the respect off Wartwood. She's not doing it to get the respect off the toads. She's doing it to respect herself and her own morality, what she believes is right. It's the one point where Anne really starts valuing her word and her thought process on things. So that's a really good point. Like Till Tax is a banger.
Yeah, all around banger. I mean, yeah, honestly, yeah, because I think like just yeah, the best thing about just finishing this series is just seeing how much solid setup there is. Yeah, because you can really just the fact that we can credit like Am versus Wild or like or see I don't know how I'm forgetting the names even Am wait I mean, Breakout Star. I don't know why I even forgot that name for a second there, but yeah. Just the fact you can credit those two episodes to like setting up something just really, God, just not just solid for Anne as a character, but also just solid for her relationship with Wartwood, and then just her and how you know how Sasha, she's always in the back of episodes like these. You can always just feel Sasha creeping up in the background, like you just have all those different things that these episodes are like a pin for. Like it's, I don't know. I think it's incredible that I managed to do that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm kind of like I would never would have considered Toe Tax like an underrated episode because
Underrated.
like I think
Yeah.
wasn't this the I think Matt mentioned this is like one of the longest like segments that aren't a 22-minute episode. I think this was like
It's
13
Yeah,
13
minutes
it's
long.
minutes.
I think
Yeah.
it's 13. I think it's
13 minutes.
13 minutes.
Yeah.
13 minutes. Just
Yeah.
like an extra two
Beginning of the
minutes.
end had the same treatment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like it is a very fantastic episode. Like um I think Matt mentions that he kind of gets like teary-eyed when he watches the episode.
It's a
Oh,
damn
yeah.
good one.
Yeah, it's a damn
Yeah.
good episode. It's a damn good episode. You go, Matt. I mean, Matt. Honestly, he deserves it. It might be like that Obama meme where like Obama's putting a medal on himself. But hey, he deserves it. He deserves it. He deserves it. He deserves it. He earned it.
While we're on like toe tax, like just for fun, I was actually rewatching season one like last week, and like I'm not sure if this is just a coincidence, but there's like I feel like there's a callback to one of the scenes in toe tax in the Coroner King. There's like one scene where Anne goes to Bog like, I don't know, guys, some of this stuff seems wrong, and Bog goes like, the law's the law, and this kind of work needs to be done. And there's an interesting line in the Coroner King that's the exact same thing, where Andreas goes like, we gotta wipe out a whole race. I don't know about that, yo. That seems fucking crazy. And then Aldrich's like, whatever. Like for our way of life to continue. And the same exact line, this kind of work needs to be done. I don't know if that was like, I might just be stretching there, but I always thought that was like a narrative callback to that scene. I might be wrong, but like it's the same line. So I was like, was that on purpose, or was that like just the writers saying the same shit over and over? I don't know. I always thought that was neat.
I don't know. I mean, hey, it's Andrews and Ann. You know what I mean? It's Andrews and Ann.
Yeah.
Those two, like those two. I don't know. Those two, they parallel hugely to each other.
Yeah, I feel like if I got the clip, it would sound like it would make more sense. But like, there's definitely a line that sounds like it's pretty much word for word the same in toe tact as it is in the Core and the King. So, yeah.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, I'm probably gonna like go back and see if that's true. I might clip this part of the recording and just upload it. But we'll see.
Okay.
Um I guess we can go into second picks.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. So, I guess am I going up?
Yeah.
Uh,
We can do the same order.
okay. Okay, so my pick. It's it's Anne versus Wild. No, it's not Anne versus Wild. I, I I
Imagine,
love that episode
imagine.
too much to make it underrated. But my second choice was uh Truck Stop Polly.
Really?
Oh,
Okay.
really?
Okay.
Whoa,
All right. I gotta hear
I
that
don't
out.
know. I
I
don't
Okay.
gotta hear
know. I
that
don't know,
out.
y'all. I don't know, y'all. I don't know.
It's a good episode.
Okay.
Like I'm just like I didn't expect that. Like
All
okay.
right, yeah. Well, all right, let's see. Let's
Okay,
see.
so I don't have, to be honest, I don't have much of like a deeper meaning behind this episode. I just think it's a really fun episode on the way to Utopia. Like, and it's a poly focused episode. And the poly episodes we had before, like Girl Time was kind of focused. It was about Polly, but it was more focused on Anne. A Night at the Inn, was a solid Polly episode about her like growing up and that kind of independent, like her wanting independence. What I like about Truck Stop Polly is that the episode immediately like starts off. It's not about like Polly wanting independence. It's just her trying to be. It's her just trying to be a kid like on the road, like she was back in Wartwood, and kind of getting used to like these new rules and like everything she kind of messes up is stuff that really wouldn't happen at home. It's just like that's all their like trip stuff. Um, like with the way like Hop Hop kind of like Hop Hop's extra tired because he's driving. Um, like the reason all the food is out is because like the wagon's so small and they just have to like do like inventory like check. Um, and it's like it's really hard to blame Polly for this kind of stuff because like she's not being like malicious about the stuff. Like I think when the map gets kind of like thrown out when she kind of like barges in, she's just like looking for Spriggan Ann. Um, like she just wants Hop Up to read like a book, like to read a storybook, and like it's like just it's very like normal kid stuff. So it's like when she can't have that, it's kind of understandable when she gets like a little bit like frustrated. And then like especially that moment of weakness where kind of like she from I guess from Hop Up Ann and Sprig where like they kind of like talk about Polly and they don't realize she's overhearing them and like it's very like I don't want to say cliche but like it's a common like plot like story beat that happens in TV but like I still thought it was like well done and her trying to run away and of course we had Soggy Joe as well and I love how like so much media kind of like portrays like truckers as like a bunch of like angry aggro people, but it's like here they're just like super chill and like I love that.
Yeah.
I love that one line where Polly expects them to take her side, but then they kind of like immediately deconstruct all the issues that Polly's having in that moment. And a lot of those moments like a lot of that like retrospect like a lot of that deconstruction could be like applied to the girls like to the trio Marcy and Sasha and I don't want to get into like the trio too much but it's like the stuff they talk about where it's like the female trucker
Oh, I remember.
she mentions like oh
Yeah.
like how like she's kind of like Polly's kind of thinking about how like her family can't provide like the comfort she needs at this time kind of like about Marcy and then another guy mentions trouble revealing vulnerability to people closest to you and then like just kind of reminds me of Sasha and and then I think Soggy Joe mentions like he mentions like trying to recreate your home life environment in like this new area which is kind of like very like relevant for Anne in season 1 and you could even like apply all of these lessons to Anne herself but
Oh shit.
it's and then we get like the spin where like where like the giant monster comes out of the egg, and I'll kind of like stop for now, but that's just my. I just think people sleep on Quarterless Pass, like not Quarterless Pass. That was my other episode. I was kind of debating, but then I just wanted to choose I wanted to choose Truck Stop Polly, like
Oh, okay.
because I wanted to rag on Impact some more, but I know it's been a year.
Yo, what?
I know it's
Oh
never
my
gonna get old,
God.
Impact.
Oh
but
my god.
Come on.
but
It's like a whole year. God damn.
it's only been a year, Impact. But yeah,
Oh
Truck
my
Stop
God.
Polly I think is super underrated episode.
Huh. That I didn't think about like the Sasha Martin stuff.
That
Yeah,
was
he's
that was
trying
like me
like
giving
yeah,
red
he's
meat
trying
for
to
you
get us
guys.
with
That
it.
was just me
He's trying
tossing
to
that out and letting you
trap,
guys like.
trap, trap.
I was like,
He's trying to trap us
okay.
with it. He's trying to trap us with that.
Trap us.
I mean, like I don't. Well, I feel like you brought up a good point. Like I feel like yeah, this isn't really. I feel like yeah, I don't know. I feel like this isn't really a bad episode. I think what did I say when we went over this episode? I remember just thinking it was funny how much. Oh yeah, it was just. I remember just finding the pace. I mean, I think this is a good episode. I don't think there are any bad parts. I think I just remember complaining about the pacing because I remember it took like there's so much. They spent so much time just setting up that Polly was scared and just needed just a little bit of like attention, just a tiny. I don't know. Because it took like I remember it being almost half the episode until they finally leave Polly behind and she's just on her own at the truck stop. Because we went from like how did this episode even open up? Like I'm trying to remember.
They open up with them on the road and like Polly
Yeah,
looking at the
them on the
map that
road.
they're halfway to Newtopia.
Yeah, halfway to Utopia. I just remember. I'm telling y'all, if you just like go rewatch this episode, it's like almost half the episode is just spent on Polly screwing up and them yelling at her, screwing up and then yelling at her, screwing up and then yelling. I I don't hate the episode. Like Thumb, I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for everything. It's just oh, I just saw that message. Wow.
Nah.
Nah, bro.
Nah.
I'm just messing with you guys. Yeah, okay. We know Impact wasn't sleeping on this episode, but
Yo.
but yeah, I just think it's also a pretty funny episode too with the like Hop Off fell asleep, he just kind of like falls over and like they just show like the cart kind of just like rolling over
Yeah, did
him.
it? Yeah, it ran over him. Jesus, I forgot about that. Like he literally got ran over by the flagon. God.
It's okay. The flight wasn't going that fast and he's fine.
Yeah. Like, what's wrong with this? Like, what is wrong with this team, dude? Like, they ran over a hop pop. I forgot. Like, that's so easy to miss. Like, there's just an animation of like the flagon like rising, going like thud on something. Like, Jesus, but. I mean, I don't know. I think again, this episode has like a lot of. It has good jokes. It has like, honestly, I mean, I'll admit, like that last bit where Polly literally basically just like volt tackles. What was that monster even called? I forgot. Just call the monster. But when the volt tackles the monster at the end, like I thought, okay, I was like, okay, that's great. That's always like an easily rewatchable scene. But I'm like, I don't know. I think overall, it just feels. I want to, I guess, kind of empty in a way because I don't know. It just because it's like we're not. I don't. I feel like the emotional conflict. It's like the emotions are there, right? But I feel like overall, I don't know because we come to this. I don't know, man. We see stories for a reason, like right. It's just like I don't know, just a person versus a conflict. Just where does that take them across 11 or 22 minutes? I think just the fact that I think for me, it spends so much time in the setup zone that I'm sort of just like I don't know, my eyes are glazing over by the time we finally get to her at the truck stop. And like I think we really only get like it's called Truck Stop Polly, but we only get like a montage with her at the truck stop, and then she's like, okay, actually, let's go back to my family. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. Where's the episode? Like, where's the actual meat of the episode?
Damn. Okay.
All right,
That's no,
all
that's
right,
no,
that's
that's
oh,
no, it's
oh,
all
did I
right.
go too hard? There, all right, went too hard. All right,
No,
my
no, no,
bad, my
Nah,
bad.
nah, it
no,
wasn't.
it's
It
no, it's
wasn't.
okay.
It wasn't.
Ooh,
I wasn't
all right, my
expecting
bad. Ooh,
that.
my bad, my bad.
No, 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 it's fine, Nick.
I just wasn't expecting it.
Because there wasn't really, yeah, like it kind of goes like I think all of like the like the final fight stuff. It's like the third act of the episode where like you have them facing off against like the I think it was called like a rock something because like it was coming from like an egg that was like shaped like Polly and
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I do like hmm there is like inciting action like like in have you ever seen that graph where it's like the inciting action and the
Oh yeah,
climax
the inciting. Yeah, yeah,
and
Inciting incident.
the inciting
yeah. The
incident
inciting incident.
and then like
Good
the
old 3-act structure.
yeah and I feel like like that peak happens at the very end with all like the monster stuff and then immediately drops back down but like not every Amphibia episode needs that kind of thing like
Like, what do you mean? Like,
No, I know what you mean. I know. I think it's like. So I won't lie. Yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying. I think it's just
no Nick don't backpedal on this
Huh? Oh no, I'm still keeping my
be
opinion though, because
committed
I'm gonna say,
in being a
I'm gonna
hater
say, even so it doesn't have like this. No, I'll say even no, no, trust me, I'm not backpedaling my opinion. I'll admit, like, even so it doesn't. What the fuck? Don't. This guy just always make me laugh. That just makes me laugh. Like, I'm sorry, it's fucking Walt. But no, I'm not doing. I'm still holding my opinion here. Like, I think, yeah, not every Amphibia episode has to have the same structure of like, I don't know, start of a conflict. Okay, all right, they go a little bananas. They go a little bananas because they're trying to overcome that conflict, and they're like, okay, maybe I should have done that at the end. Not every Amphibia episode needs that. But I think the problem is, I think as long as it just feels like I'm invested in something that just feels like real and solid, like I'm down. But I'll admit this, I think there is a reason why we just have that structure. And that's just, I mean, I think if we're just being like, if we're just laying it down, it's just for the audience to not feel like they're having their time wasted, honestly. Like they want to see something that feels real, and they want to see characters just react to that very real thing, just see where that takes them, what kind of choices they make. And I think the problem is when you just spend too much time and just setting up a character in their conflict, it's like, I don't know, by the time we finally get to like whatever they're actually dealing with, it's like, I don't know, if it goes by too fast, it's like, I don't know. To me, I'm like, shit. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, what was I really here for? 'Cause don't get me wrong, I love the characters when they get to dick around, but it's like, I think there's, I don't know, there wasn't really much of that here. It's just it's I think it's an episode that didn't really get to bring out the best part of itself. I think I can say that. Think if I'm like gonna like summarize it as simply as possible. It's I think
okay
it just struggled trying to condense down that setup, and then when I actually finally got to like all the juicy bits we were actually here for, just like where does it take Polly when she feels like she isn't getting the love she needs? It's
I
eh,
feel
like that isn't really there.
okay I think I disagree with that because like we have this episode where like we know how close like how tight Anne and the planners are so we need to have some episodes where they kind of lose their patience with the character like with each other like you have an episode like we see a lot of episodes where like the players one of them does something stupid and then they kind of deal it with a healthy way where they kind of like gather everyone out and they're like and call each other's bullshit like we see it a lot with Sprig and we see it a lot with like Anne and Hop Hop but, like here it's like having the rest of the planners kind of like separate themselves from like the child or the baby of the group and kind of like be a little bit like harsh kind of like I think adds to the dynamic because at the end of the day Polly's a baby and like it makes sense for them to kind of like have this kind of I don't want to say put Polly down but they kind of like they kind of like separate her from them because like they consider themselves kind of like more mature or older so I do think there's something there, like in terms of like why we come to the show and whatever. Like I do think that aspect of them like kind of like being fed up with Polly, and then later on they kind of like realize the error of their ways very early on. They kind of like give her some distance, and then that's when they realize like what's going on, and then they immediately like realize what happened. They immediately like go back to the truck stop. I think that kind of still I think that kind of those kinds of moments still show the strength of the Planner family, even when they're kind of at odds with one another.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, I agree with you there. I agree with you there. I think all those moments that make Amphibia are still present in the episode. I just think honestly, I think I'll admit, I think it really just comes down to like a structural issue with the episode and just how it just sets itself up to create like I don't know, just like the max. In fact, this is like the inner writer in me. I'm like, with the maximum pathos. I'm like with the pathos. I'm out here. I'm like, it's just I don't know because again I don't know, man. Stories they're I fucking hate saying all this shit. But,
That's all right.
so I'm cursing. I'm cursing, but like a sailor. But no, it's just the idea, man. I mean, stories. I mean, they're just built by conflict. We're just here to see, like, not all the time. Not all the time, but I mean, I feel like if we are here to see a character and how they deal with a conflict, it's just like I'll admit this honestly. I do wish I could have like I could think about this episode more, but like I think it's just yeah, sure, it has all the solid amphibia bits, but it's like again, man, it's just we spend way too much time in this setup. Like we're five 5 minutes in, we're still having Polly do something dumb. And the players are like, Polly, what the hell is wrong with you? And then she's just like, all right, my bad, y'all. Like we're it's just like I don't know, because like there is a very real thing going on here. Like they're on this like very tedious, stressful trip and they can't all watch over Polly. Like there's lots of meat. I mean, yeah, I mean shit, yeah, there's lots of stuff that can be pulled out of a setting like this with a planter family. It's just like I don't know. I think it doesn't like there's something there, but I don't think it goes for the best way by honestly. I guess this is ironic saying this, but I mean I know the episode's called Truck Stop Polly, but I don't know, maybe they should have like maybe maybe she shouldn't have been dumped at a truck stop because it's like I don't know, because I think it's just all that set up just for her to be dumped at a truck stop, go for like a montage of her at the truck stop. It's just like, all right, I'm tired of this, and it's like, I don't know, man. I don't really, I don't know. I'm not sure like what is I'm still going with. I don't know. Yeah, the truckers they were the best part of the episode. They were the best part of the episode.
Yeah,
I
but
liked
like
everything else, but the truckers, they were hands down the best part of the episode.
I guess like like a couple of final thoughts I had. Like Soggy Joe coming back was great. Like him just like being a logger.
Soggy
Oh, Soggy
Joe,
Yeah, him just being a
Joe.
trucker kind
way
of
to
like gives
go.
us a lot of information about like the resource and the trading that goes on between Frog Valley and Utopia and other parts of Amphibia. Um, the book that Hop Pop's reading to Polly was actually a book that Sprig's
Yeah.
mom gave to Sprig. Sorry,
Yeah.
the planter's mother gave to Sprig. Um, and
I still can't believe Matt's explanation for like the parents being dead. Like was it during our interview when he talked about that? He just said like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
they're dead."
yeah.
He's like they're dead because they would have been boring.
yeah,
It's like, all right, damn,
and
bro.
then
All right, make them orphans because they're boring. All right, you go, bro.
Polly's full name, Polly Petunia Planter.
Yeah, Polly Petunia Planter. See all those moments. That's what made this episode worth it. But honestly, if you just said that, I would have like, all right, though, I got you, man. I got you. I got you. I was like, all right, Thumb, I got you. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's overall, it's just I don't know because I mean, yeah, I really hate saying this. I really hate like sitting down like rules for writing, but I do think like I don't know things like the 3 act structure, things like having a solid conflict for an episode, like things like that. They just exist just to bring out like those very real emotions we see in the character, and I think it's just when like the episode's best moments are definitely just when like at the end when Hop Hop he goes Polly Petunia Planner or it's when she, or just I don't know, or just when she overhears. Honestly, Hop Hop talking shit. Like Hop Hop was talking shit. Hop Hop was talking shit in that one moment. Like let's be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's just you have those very real things there, and I guess what I'm coming down to, the episode just doesn't like utilize them like very much. I think it's just like that's honestly, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's just that. Like we just don't really see where those emotions take Polly because it's just she doesn't even like it's like an accident. Her being in this it's a fucking accident too. Like it's like what's drive I don't know, because it's also just like what's driving this episode? Like it's like she gets abandoned by accident. Like don't forget that. She was still wasn't she yeah, she was just planning to scare them real quick. She was going to come back. Like she was only like she wasn't even trying to run. Like I'm sorry, I'm laughing at that. I'm laughing at the fucking. I don't know. Looking back, that was pretty fucking funny. But I don't know, man. Those are all my thoughts on the episode.
Okay, I guess we can. Nick and I spent a lot of time on that one.
Yeah, yeah, we
It-
were going off. We were
I
going
wasn't
off.
expecting that episode to go
Yeah.
that long, to be honest.
but Impact. What's your next pick for an underrated episode?
Oh, this was okay. This was a tough one because
Ooh.
I'm trying to think because I don't, in a weird way, I don't think this episode is underrated. And you'll see when I say it. It's kind of like weirdly misunderstood, and I think a lot of times in the community it's talked about, but not exactly in like an essential way for the character who's in focus here. And like you'll just hear me out. You'll get it
Yeah,
why I'm
you about to
saying
say
it when I
reunion.
explain
I
it.
was about to say
But no,
reunion.
no,
What
no,
was
no,
it?
no, 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 no. This is a weird one. Just hear me out. All right.
All right,
I'm
all
gonna
right, all
say
right,
it's
all right.
new Wartwood. All right, hear me out. Hear
Boo!
me out.
Boo!
Nah,
Boo!
nah, nah. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. So like I think new Wartwood doesn't really mean too much until we get beginning of the end and like all in with like Marcy's arc of like learning to like let go of her escapism and stuff. But I think what was okay, so let's establish like the episode before this point that sets it up. Scavenger hunt, right? We established early on, or at the end of that episode, that like Marcy is like doesn't believe that she's good at making connections and friendships, right? You see that she's sort of comparing her like her social skills to Anne with the whole like I'm jealous of you and I can't look people in the eye sometimes, right? Marcy thinks that she's bad at making connections because she's comparing her social skills to Anne and Sasha. So when she comes to when she comes to Wartwood, right? She tries to make some friends. She tries to like share her interests with the rest of Wartwood, and they're like, "Nah, fuck that shit. We're out. Like we don't know who you are." Like, and Marcy is instantly like, "Up, I'm bad at making friends. I don't know what I'm doing. This is not going to work out." Right. So in Marcy's head, like her fundamental problem is that she's trying to kind of, what's the word? So Marcy tries to like kind of logic her way into the town accepting her, right? She tries to build all kinds of like improvements to the town or whatever. She's trying to like make the town like her. And really like fundamentally Marcy's problem in this episode is that she tries to force acceptance. Her fundamental issue as a character is that she doesn't understand how acceptance works, right? She thinks she can kind of logic her way out of any problem or situation. And you see that in First Temple, right? Even when the temple starts cheating, she's still going anyway. That doesn't make any sense. Like she's trying to like logic her way out of any problem or situation. So like a lot of Marcy's issues in like 2B is about her having to like learn not to do that. So really her fundamental issue in the narrative is acceptance. So what's the word? Lost my train of thought there for a second. But yeah, like I think New Wartwood is really the first episode to really establish that theme of Marcy throughout the narrative. Because really, Marcy's fundamental flaw, it's like, what's the word? What's the word? What's the word? What's the word? I'm losing my words. Sorry, guys. I have the right idea for it, but like, since Marcy is a character who has a hard time with acceptance, she believes that that can be forced upon others, right? Just as how in beginning of the end, Marcy tries to get Anne and Sasha to kind of enjoy the same thing she does. Even when they're watching the movie, Marcy is like not actually letting them watch the movie and enjoy it. She's trying to explain it to them, right? She's trying to kind of get them to think the same way she does, but she doesn't understand that's not how that works. You can't really force that kind of thing. That just takes time. So, like, I think New Wartwood kind of becomes more important because it establishes Marcy's like fundamental arc in the narrative of like, yeah, of acceptance essentially. So that's what I really liked about that episode, and like also Anne and Marcy working together. That was fun. I always liked that Anne, how Marcy kind of showed Anne her way. Anne drew Newtopia, and gets to show Marcy drew Wartwood and stuff. And I like that Anne's kind of like what's the word? Like, not mentor figure, but she's definitely like the one who knows what she's doing because she's the one who's better at making connections than Marcy. So like, yeah, there's a little bit more I'll get into if we discuss it more, but like that's pretty much it. So I think this episode ultimately means much more to Marcy's arc once we get to beginning of the end and all in, and I think her motivations are more established here. So that's it.
Okay, thank you, Impact. Um, okay, I'm trying to be nice.
Why
Like,
are y'all booing? I don't
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like what?
okay, the thing,
What the
okay,
hell?
I don't
Like,
think,
Complicated.
I
It's
don't think
complicated. It's complicated.
I don't think New Wartwood is an underrated episode, but
I don't think so
I
either.
know
But I
you
think it's
mentioned it. I know you mentioned it.
misunderstood. Yeah.
I think what just bothers me about this episode is that like it feels like there's a lot of good stuff in it, and it just doesn't lead to like a satisfying conclusion or like,
Trucks on Polly?
yo.
I'm
Okay,
joking.
we
Let them see.
this
Let them see.
this
Let them
isn't this
see.
isn't round two
I'm
round two
joking,
of Truck
I'm
Stop
joking,
Polly. This is round one of New Wartwood. But because I know you mentioned like the stuff about like Marcy's trying to win the town's respect, kind of like Breakout
Yeah.
Star for Anne, but and I do think there's a really interesting like parallel here where I think Nick's heard me talk about how like New Wartwood is kind of like the antithesis to Lily Pad Thai with the way like the way Anne kind of like positively like introduces her culture to Wartwood compared to like Marcy kind of importing Newtopia's culture into Wartwood. But that's like another topic.
Yeah.
Because like I think it starts off well with the way kind of like Marcy's like, oh, what can I do to help around here? And she goes to Anne, and Anne kind of like gives her like actual like issues with the town that like Marcy actually figures out and helps to solve. And like and the show doesn't really comment on like the how the more extravagant stuff kind of doesn't help the town. They kind of just do it and just don't really commentate on it.
Okay.
So like I think if the episode kind of like focused on how like Marcy losing sight of what's important for Wartwood in her pursuit to like earn their respect, like if they kind of like focused the episode around that, or like had the ending of the episode kind of reference that, it would have been a really strong episode. But instead they're just like, oh yeah, we'll just like you eventually. And it's just, it doesn't feel that like earned. And granted, it's because like we're kind of like got this kind of like more welcoming attitude because of Anne. And I like that, but this is a Marcy episode, so I would kind of expect more from Marcy to
in
kind of
terms of like,
in terms of like driving the plot or driving like the like Marcy's trying to impress the town. I want to see how the town is kind of like reacting. We see how the town reacts to Marcy in the beginning and the end, but it doesn't really feel like. I know this kind of like progression can't happen in just like a,
I
in
feel
one episode the same way you do like the same way Anne had like a season for it, but like I kind of wanted something more. It just wasn't satisfying for me.
I feel like I would disagree with that though, because like doesn't after the whole montage with Marcy and Anne though, right? The town immediately comments that they're like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling Marcy right now, and Toadstool's like, well, hold on, I can use this. Like, I feel like there is a point where you see,
Asshole.
yeah, you see definitely the town react to Marcy, but I don't know, like I guess I like this episode more from a characterization perspective. Because I think Marcy's like, what's the word? Like, Marcy is trying to create change in Wartwood without the acceptance of the past of how it was before, which is interesting because that's her kind of issue with the friend group. Marcy is trying to change Anne and Sasha to like the same thing she does, but like she is not accepting the past. She's not accepting that Anne and Sasha are not interested in it. She ignores it in order to strive for her want of the future, which is kind of an interesting opposite to Sasha's problem, where like she is stuck in the past. She wants to maintain the friendship she had with Anne and Marcy for years, right? She does not want that to change. She does not want Anne to change. So her arc ultimately was about like letting go of the past. Well, Marcy's arc is about that letting go for want of the future by accepting the past. So I feel like to a certain degree that makes sense that why Marcy would like change Wartwood in that way. She's changing it in an image that would benefit her. Because again, she's trying to change the friendship in a way that would benefit her. That's the whole thing with going to Amphibia, right? Or getting Anne to like the same cosplay stuff she was doing in Bessie and Michelangelo, right? Again, she's trying to change. I said it already. I don't have to repeat it. But like, I feel like I like this episode more of what it tells you of Marcy's mindset as a character. And I'm kind of okay with that. Like, I'm not like, I don't know. I feel like in a way, I like the idea that the town wants, what's the word? That Marcy doesn't have to do anything really for it to like, for the town to like want to get to know her, because the whole thing is that Marcy is trying to force this. She's trying to force them to like her, but that's not how relationships work, right? They work naturally through time if you just put in the effort to do it. She's trying to like rush that process as quickly as possible. So like, I don't know. I guess I'm not even sure if I disagree with your point, Thumb. I guess I just see the episode as more of like a character piece for Marcy, and what are you getting into her mindset as a character, which will play a bigger part when we get to All In and the hardest thing. Well, wait, not the hardest thing. The beginning of the end and All In.
Beginning of the
Yeah.
Okay, and I think True Colors definitely like helps my perspective of New Wartwood with the way like we see like you said. I do agree that New Wartwood does still show like how Marcy kind of operates.
As
I
a
just
person,
as a
yeah.
person, I just don't like how it's not her kind of like design choices and like
Oh
that
yeah.
kind of like cause the destruction of the town. It's more like just like
The weight of
yeah, the
the
weight of everything makes everything sink, which kind of that's not. I didn't like that explanation. I would have preferred if Marcy's changes were the things that sort of caused the town to like get destroyed.
I think to an extent, like I mean, technically the design choices do though, right? Because like the whole like because Marcy knows that if she puts too much weight onto the town, it'll get destroyed. But she chooses to ignore that. Like, again, someone who's trying to change something without acceptance of the path, right? So, like, what's the word? Like, I don't know. I guess I'm not sure if I agree with that, just because, like, technically the design of the entire thing ends up putting weight on it in a way. Like, it's not like Marcy, like, just put a bunch of bricks on the town and then, like, it got destroyed, you know? Like, she was trying to change it ultimately to benefit her want. So, I don't know. Like, I guess I don't even disagree. I guess it's just I view it differently. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I understand where you're coming from.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say, I mean, I think, yeah, I think I'll agree with both of you guys. I think this episode definitely has, like, worthwhile, just tons of worthwhile stuff, tons of good character meat. I think they got lots of solid stuff that comes back in true colors. But I think overall, I mean, I do think me and Tommy sort of like share the same problems with the episode. But I really do like, again, shoot. I when I made that truck stop Polly joke, it wasn't for nothing. Like I was not. It wasn't just a joke. It was like also me, Aaron. It was also just me, Aaron. Some things I believe to be true because I mean, I'm like, okay, I'm like, all right. I'm like, solid setup, good character meet here. I'm like, all right, this is working. But then Toadstool comes up. Like that's when this episode dies for me. That's when this episode dies. His arrival is his arrival is like a death gong for this episode.
On the hot air
Like
balloon.
the hot air balloon. It's when he comes. That's when I'm like, all right, well, it's like honestly, it's like Maddie and Marcy, bro. I'm like, honestly, yeah, come after me. It's like the Maddie. It's like Maddie and Marcy. It's like when her sisters. It's like when Maddie's sisters come, and that's when I'm like, all right, guys. There's a clicker trying to click on this episode, but I'm joking. Don't get mad at me. But this episode, New Wartwood, I'm like, I'm totally just there with you, man. I mean, I feel like it's a solid character story from Marcy. I'm like, I'm like it comes from really solid stuff. But again, I think just the problem is just like how do we build a story out of the issues that Marcy has? And I think just Toadstool showing up there and just helping things escalate because I get it, Marcy's trying to use like a shortcut to bypass like, actual foundational things to forming relationships. I mean, I get that, it
Yeah.
makes sense. It's just I don't know, man. Like it's just funny how we time skip. They build like practically like a city overnight, and it's like okay, like then things go. Then after that, things immediately go wrong, and then Anne's like, okay, Marcy, we're gonna fix this, and then the episode ends. It's like
It's weird because I okay, well, technically, like, Anne doesn't say to fix it. Marcy is the one who chooses to fix it, and then she does it. So, like, Anne doesn't tell her to do anything there, really. Like, the only thing she says is, like, Anne is like, hey, don't work with Toadstool. That's a shitty idea. Marcy's like, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. And so
yeah,
she does it. Which is kind of like a weird thing with Marcy Anne, where, like, nah, never mind. I don't have enough evidence
nah,
to
no.
back that up.
No, no. I mean, it's. I don't know. It's just, yeah. But you're right. I mean, I think, yeah, there are solid choices by Marcy here, but I think again, I think it's just again, just that idea of a conflict, a character in a conflict, and like the journey and the sort of like the emotional journey it takes them on. It's just like in that journey, like yeah, it really helps when that's just built out of like multiple choices they end up making. When it's just I don't know because like Toadstool comes in, and that's just when the episode it just like it's just isn't Marcy's anymore. Honestly, it just does not feel like Marcy's anymore after that point to me. Honestly, like he comes in, escalates things go wrong, and then Marcy's like, all right, all right, I need to get this all cleaned up. Let's just go get this done. Then she apologizes to the town. I guess she learns her lesson, but yeah, I think it's just that middle chunk that just feels empty. Kind of like truck stop holiday.
Huh.
But I already talked about that. But it's just yeah, I don't know. I think it's just that middle chunk that I think just needs to be upgraded. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be like, all right, this is an all around banger. But unfortunately, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm with Thumb there. I mean, me and Thumb. Someone wants to say me and Thumb are wearing clown masks. I'm like New Wartwood and Maddie and Marcy. Then all right, give it to us. But I'm like, I don't know. I feel like it's funny. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, these 2 episodes, it's just like really solid starts, but then like I swear to God, they bring in these side characters, and suddenly there's like this gong, like that's a gong of death for these 2 episodes for me. Like instantly. It's like I'm not even joking. I've rewatched Maddie and Marcy. I'm like, I'm there for like the whole montage. Then I'm like, all right, their sisters are here. I'm walking away. Like I'm like, I'm sorry, but like you can't like I don't know, man. It's just
I feel
there are
like
other solid Marcy episodes. I guess I'll end it on that. There are other Marcy episodes that I would be like, I'd rather stand than these 2. I'll say that.
I feel like one thing I do want to mention is that like I don't really see like I guess New Wartwood does play into Marcy's like time in True Colors, but like I feel like I don't know. I don't really get the vibe that it plays the I feel like the establishment of scavenger hunt of Marcy feeling insecure about making friendships feels like that's more of what like True Colors like brings to Marcy rather than New Wartwood specifically. I guess that's why to me this episode changed a lot when we got beginning of the end and when we got what Marcy's arc was actually about. You know what I mean? So like I felt like to an extent like what's the word? Like I feel like we're getting this like I feel like this episode won't like have a ton of like payoff in season 2 because ultimately it doesn't really have it. Like I mean, and to an extent you could say Sasha's episodes don't in True Colors either, right? Like the dinner and Battle of the Bands, those problems of Sasha are resolved, but they only play a big part when we get to the end of their arcs. But like True Colors, Sasha ignores her lessons. Marcy ignores her lessons, like into B. So like I feel like naturally during the time of season 2, those episodes don't mean that much. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I'm trying to get your guys' logic around it, and I kind of get it, but like, I don't know. I feel like I can't really agree with that. I feel like what it gives the characterization wise of Marcy plays a bigger part. Like, it feels like it's a bigger part of the entire plot of the character once we get later on, compared to like Marcy's time in Utopia, for example, which is still good. I'm not gonna like dispute that, but like I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that per se, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, like I mean, I'll say it. I think it's less about what it means for True Colors, and I think it's just more about the episode itself. I'm like, to me, I'm like, okay, how good of an episode is this? Is it just is there just like a solid character story all throughout? Like, I don't know if we just compare it to like something like I don't know what would be something solid. I guess Lily Pad Thai,
Um,
right? Like Lily Pad Thai, like So I mean, since Tom already brought that up, I think it's just just the idea of like I don't know, and because you have the bonding with someone from in Mortwood, and then you just have like Anne's cultural pride on the line too, right? Like I think those are just consistent driving forces for the episode. And sure, while things do escalate, I think it's just purely out of Anne's hands. Like it's just born right out of Anne's hands. Like it's just purely an episode driven by her own emotions. And when you finally see her triumph, it just leaves you with this. Oh yeah, I don't know. You just get this feeling of like, wow, and that sure was an episode about blank or whatever. I think
I feel like
when
I
I see
mean
New Wartwood, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say like, but Lily Pad Thai has a very different
Oh yeah, no,
conflict
no, definitely, definitely.
because like that episode is more like it's not really Anne trying like in New Wartwood it was Marcy trying to resolve an insecurity through her it was Marcy trying to resolve an insecurity through a toxic method. So like But Lily Pad Thai is really different because that's Anne like sharing her love of her culture through the restaurant and her wanting to defend that. You know what I mean? Like that feels a little different. So like I guess it's similar in the sense that Anne makes a positive change in to Stumpy. And I love that episode, by the way. I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying that's different. So like I feel like those conflicts are very different because one is based upon an insecurity and flawed mindset of a character, while the other is more based upon like not really a flaw of Anne per se. It's more like Anne like sticking to her guns. So like I don't know. I feel like those are very different conflicts, if that makes sense. But that might be like another debate. Like that goes beyond New Wartwood, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think no, because I think, yeah, no, you're right, you're right. I mean, I wasn't trying to say like, I wasn't trying to compare them just based on like, oh, I'm saying they're similar. I think I was just trying to like mention how they both handled their own character stories, and while I just think like what could have been done better with New War, because I think like overall this episode I like, but again, it's just how it's just a solid setup, and I think Toadstool just I don't know, man. I think it's just like missing like I just think it's just missing like a really solid middle that could have been built out of like just more of Marcy's desperation to have these people
Oh,
like her because it just oh what
wait. Oh no, I get it now. So wait, so would you want it so then Toadstool was like straight up wasn't there and like
yeah
Marcy just
wasn't there
decided
yeah
to do it like
yeah wasn't that
without
Toadstool just not being yeah just entirely built out of Marcy just like
Oh,
no Toadstool no
okay.
Toadstool just like
There we
I don't know
go.
because
I get it. Mm,
it just makes it more low key to Marcy, and I think it just makes it easier to like emphasize what was going on, honestly. Because I think it's just
okay.
Toadstool. It's just I don't know, man. I love Toadstool. Don't get me wrong. I love Toadstool. It's just I don't know. The man should not have been there. I think overall, yeah, that's I think that's my thing.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I think we should. No, those are good thoughts. Like I don't really have much to add. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess Nick, what's your
Oh, mine.
second pick?
This is one where I'm like, this is one where I'm like taking no prisoners on this one. This is I'm gonna have to like fend off impact and sticks with this one. Like this is like this is not
What?
this is gonna be like another 1 hour long argument. But I'm like I'm saying Mother Rome's man, Mother of Rome's. I don't care. I don't care what anyone has to say. This was a good episode. This was a good episode. I don't care what the general opinion of is. This was a solid ass episode. Everything that I watched Amphibia for, this episode had. All right, I'm here. I'm here for the sense of a lighthearted adventure with development that these characters never would have gotten without each other. All right, it had all of that. Okay, all right, we have like I don't even care. I don't care if this is the lore. I don't care if people are like, but the lore. Why do we spend 10 minutes going through someone's fucking body just for a minute of lore? I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Like it's like, yeah, listen, this is I don't think Amphibia. I don't think because the lore. I think it's very obvious what the show's priorities have always been since day one. I know that mural is in the background of every episode, but it's like it's just there. And even when it came to the actual show, most you would get are just background teases. I think it's very obvious what this show actually cared about, and it was just either it was going to be a lighthearted adventure or it was going to be a character drama. I think like all this talk about. I mean, it's fair. Like if a different. I mean, it's fair. Like sure, I don't think there's anything wrong with Amphibia having like an entire 11 minutes of like just pure lore, but it's like I don't know. Like at the same time, I don't think it's very wrong for Amphibia to have an entire episode dedicated to Hop Pop. Like I don't think that's wrong. Like I don't know to tell I don't know to tell the haters. I don't know to tell the haters. I mean, like if this episode had actually any bad bits, I would agree. But it's like even the gross out humor. Like yeah, normally gross out humor kind of sucks, but it's like here I'm telling you, I don't know Amphibia cooked man, it worked. Like I'm sorry, but like having a character like Sasha, who is always just super invested in their looks, and just honestly just hates any kind of adventure like this, having her complain the whole time, that was hilarious. And one of the funniest moments of the show is when they're trying to find that guy. I forgot his name, but you guys know what I'm talking about. The one who always helps, the one who smears. Oh, it's so weird. But the one who smears like that memory thing on Miss Mother. Not France. I don't think their name was Francois, but they were the one who died. They're the one who died in her brain. But like when Sprig gets when Sprig accidentally like walks into their hand and their hand goes all the way in his mouth. That is one of the funniest moments on the show. If you hate that, you're a crybaby. I'm sorry, but stop being a hater. But I'm
I
sorry.
think that
And all
was.
that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think it was Doctor. I think you're talking about. I think the doctor's name was Doctor
Oh,
Johan.
yeah,
Yeah, there
Dr.
we
Johan.
go.
Yeah, Dr. Johan. Yeah, Dr. Johan. Yeah, Dr. Johan. Yeah, that episode was all right. And then, all right, to top it all off, to top it all off, to top it all off, to top it all off. Hop Hop and Mother on bonding. That was sweet as hell. That was awesome. I did not. I think it's just one of those things that I think again. I think 3B is a C is a. I don't know because I think to really engage with media in the best way you can. I think it's really just to understand intent. And like I'm not trying. I'm never. I don't trust me. I never want to be the kind of guy who's just like, oh, you're an idiot. You just didn't get the intent. No, I mean I think if you, I think it's so fair game for someone to think that they don't like them. But it's like I'll say this. I think to me 3B is a season there's at least a chunk of the season that knows it's over and it just wants to pay respect to some of the characters that took along the way. And like to me, this having Hop Pop bond with this like celestial being that's like thousands of years older than him, yeah, to me, that was an amazing send off for the old man. I love that. Also giving him a hero moment where he has to save the day. I love that too. I'm sorry, but all around, this is a solid ass into the episode. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that the lore isn't the most like important thing in the episode, but that's kind of how it's always been. And even then, when the lore does come up, it's still even when they're covered in boogers, like seriously, they're covered in snot and boogers. That scene still goes hard. Like that scene, I honestly I forget that's happening. So that's all around. Those are my opinions. Like this is still to me, this is still a really good episode.
Okay, like, look, Nick. I know.
No way.
Wait, okay, wait, hear
The
me here.
Hop Pop champ
Hear me out.
thinks
Wait.
agree.
I
No
know.
way.
Wait. Hear me out. Hear me out. I I know you kind of trashed Corler's Pass a lot, and not Corler's Pass. Truck Stop Polly, and I wanted to do the same for your second pick, but I can't. Because because this is a Hop Hop episode, I did consider it underrated in my eyes, but but like the moment this episode like revealed Hop Hop had like aching joints, and it's like, oh, this is a stealth Hop Hop episode. Let's go. Like, but
yeah, they God, they snuck those in so many times. Like, yeah, Hop Up stole the show out of nowhere. I think 3 times in 3B, right? Like you just didn't. Yeah, the Root of Evil did not see that coming. Mother of Olms did not see that coming. There was like another one, wasn't there? Like I forgot.
Adventures
I
in
think
I
that
Cat
can't
City.
remember.
was. Oh yeah, well that's what was in 3B. That was 3A.
3A, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was either 2 or 3. I think it was either 2 or 3 3B episodes, but like I don't know. But
I
sorry,
think it
Tom.
was
You go ahead. Go
2.
ahead. I interrupted you. You go ahead, Tom.
Like, no, I was just gonna say, like, I know the main issue with this, with that people have with this episode, it's like, not main issue. It's kind of interesting to see people who are very, like, into the Amphibia lore. So a lot of, like, the Amphibia fandom at the time, where it's like, they already knew about the prophecy. And so, like, hearing it again here wasn't really new information for them.
Yeah.
But like I've talked to like a few people who've seen the episode without without that context. It's just they're just like, oh, like actually, oh, that's interesting. And I just pull up like I think people tend to forget like not everyone is like observing the show the same way we are. So it's like you kind of had to at some point in the show like kind of talk about the prophecy and like without it being hidden away for like 2 frames from an episode that aired like 2 years ago. Like, and then like I know our friend King of the Uzbeks kind of made a great point about Mother Olm, like how like if you compare this to the core, how the core is like very efficient with its like memories and how it like and its storage and
Oh
how
shit.
how calculating it is and like how like kind of like cold it's become from it all this knowledge. And you compare that to Mother Olm, who's like very human. Like she forgets. She's like unsure. She kind of like yeah, like
Yeah.
she's imperfect and still kind of like empathetic. So it's kind of like it feels in line like having Mother Olm not like really have all the answers kind of feels in line with the way the show is kind of like drip fed its lore to us throughout the show.
Yeah.
And like maybe people were expecting more, like
Yeah.
but I felt like we still got that with the way she kind of describes the core itself without actually knowing what it is. Because I don't think Mother Olm actually knows about the core. She just knows that Newtopia made something.
Yeah, they're pretty vague about the core. Like, I feel like if Mother Olm knew it, she would just be like, "Okay, and it's like, and Sasha, this is the core. Okay, blah 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 blah. There you go." But like, it was pretty vague. So I assume the Olms know something, but they don't know much because the core is hidden, right? Like, it's not known even in like ancient. Like, even Andreas didn't know about it. He's been living in the castle for years. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, I assume they didn't know.
And
Uh,
oh, go ahead and back.
oh, okay. I was gonna throw in my thoughts of this episode. Like I feel like Mother is so interesting because it's like because I think with your point, like I agree with that, and I don't really dislike Mother Olm. Like Nick, you were saying like I was gonna like go like just like your point like no like not really like Mother Alm was like it was funny like Sasha like hating herself the whole time. That's hilarious, like like but like I wasn't like that like upset about this episode, but I understood why you would be. Like, I feel like because Mother Olm is like hyped up, like to be like the key to all the answers in Amphibia. All right, here we go. We're gonna get a ton of lore this episode, and when we get there, it's like we're memeing around and I mean, we're memeing around in like fucking in Mother Olm's body for like half the episode. Like, so I don't blame people for that. But I wasn't like I don't know. I was kind of okay with it because 3B is ultimately giving us lore naturally throughout the season. You know what I mean? Like we get an idea of like Olmtown Road, we get an idea of how the Olm civilization works. Like Mother Olm, we get an idea of the prophecy, how the powers work, um, kind of the idea of the core a bit more. And then like we understand why the Olms are the way they are, right? Because they're a passive culture. They were always passive because they had the stones and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. According to King, that's our lore dump episode, really. Like, that's why I was never like, Mother Olm's like mid. I was like, nah, like it worked well with what it was supposed to do. And like the According to King is our lore dump episode. You know what I mean? So it's like I was sort of good with it. And it's not like there's a ton of lore anyway we need to know, like by the end of the show. Besides, I guess God Domino is the only one that's like I know the fandom has a bit of a problem with, and I think some people wanted that set up like um yeah, but like I saw your comment. But like yeah, but like yeah, but it's a weird one. I don't mind Mother Ohm that much. I don't know. Like I enjoyed it for what it was because ultimately we get all the lore I need by the end of the show. So it's like I don't know. I wasn't like, oh my god, Mother Ohm is garbage. Like no, like I was like, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I'll admit, I think one of the funny things, because I think something you made me realize. I mean, I don't know, like when you like sort of like look at 3B, honestly, you kind of realize that the list of priorities that 3B had, man, I feel like they weren't really that long, you know, because it does, because it's like shit. This is coming out. This isn't even about Mother Rome. It's coming out of nowhere. So I don't know. I'll see. Shit, I'll just back to Mother Rome. I'll see if I'll talk about that later. But Mother Rome. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it really is understandable. If someone who's really invested in the Lord just gets frustrated with the episode, because it's like I do know we do have Fight at the Museum, and then we have what's the episode after that? We have like what's another? I think it was like
Hometown
you know
Road.
when they get Old Town. Jesus, Old Town. Old Town Road, y'all. Like Old Town Road. Why they? I'm like, imagine the writer in the writer's room. They're like, what do we call this episode? And they have the genius idea to call Hometown Road. Like what the fuck is wrong? But we can go to that later. But Hometown Road, yeah, I think, yeah, I'll admit, yeah, I can see why it's frustrating because I mean I mean, shit, that episode literally ends with like us getting that glimpse of them fully powered. Like that blew a lot. Like I remember there being a bunch of fan art just based off that, but a bunch of people just trying to like figure out like who's who. I remember there are people like there are people trying to give like Marcy like rhinoceros horns or something. It was like a whole thing. Just people that
Oh yeah, we
trying
didn't
to
know
figure
which
out.
one was
Yeah.
which.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People were confused. People were confused because they're like, they're not just gonna give Sasha back her ponytail. That must be like a rhinoceros or something. So it was like a whole thing. It was like a whole thing. But like,
yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, just darn. No, just because it's like, yeah, I can totally see. It's crazy because I mean, oh man, I think Amphibia. Oh, even this. I think Amphibia definitely does. Amphibia definitely set it's definitely set itself up for disaster because it's like I don't know, man. You get people super hyped up on the lore. They're like, nah, this is a regular Amphibia episode. Like even if it's a solid even if it's like a solid regular Amphibia episode, you still kind of promise people there'll be a bunch of lore. So I mean, I'll admit that. I'll admit those are all things you can be angry about. But I'm like, after a year after a year, y'all are still on that shit after a whole ass year. No, like after a year, I'm not gonna agree anymore. After a year, I'm telling you, it's like nah, nah. After a year, it's time for y'all to admit that was a perfectly fine episode. Like that's all I got.
All right, thank you, Nick. And Sticks, what's your second and the final underrated episode of the night?
Wally and Anne.
Hey.
mm. Honestly, I was struggling quite a lot to like pick a second option, but honestly, um, I think that Wally and Anne is just like a very fun episode, where and it kind of sits in this weird like middle ground when Anne like already quite clearly, quite definitely cares about like the planters and Wartwood to a lesser but still important extent. But she still has that mean streak to her that I wouldn't say she lost, but that she kind of like uh, grinded out a little bit the more mature she became. And it was pretty funny seeing how completely unwilling she was to be compared to someone she saw as like a weirdo. And well, I guess that makes sense considering the experience she had being like seen as an actual monster in Amphibia. But also, how do I say this? Um, the way she so well, not quickly, but so relatively quickly, she learned from Wally. I think Wally's like lesson of like, hey, you shouldn't really like give a shit, about stuff um, that you can't control. That was a pretty valuable thing to point out to her, I think. And well, of course, there's also like this tiny lore tidbits, the ruins in the Misty Moors, the Mossman, of course. I still really love the design of the Mossman. Um, but I don't know. It's just in general, it was really sweet seeing the show go out of its way to make Anne bond really closely to a Wartwood character that wasn't the Planters. I feel that that was a very crucial step in making the audience care more about the town up to the time that, well, a reunion and later on, like, we were supposed to actually care about it. I feel that episodes like this, where um, people who live in Wartwood are really given the spotlight, are very, very important.
Okay, thank you, Sticks. Um, like the thing about Wally and Anne, I think, in my opinion, I don't think this is an underrated episode. But
Yeah.
but here, I'm kind of glad that I can say that though, because I feel like if you went back to like maybe like early season two, mid season two, I think that was when I think Wally and Anne, like the segment itself, got a lot more traction from the fandom. Like I've seen a lot more praise. Like I was pleasantly surprised by how much like the fandom in general kind of like discusses Wally and Anne. I think Sleepover to End All Sleepovers definitely helped with the Mossman appearance coming back. I think that's what kind of like started the upward trend of people revisiting Wally and Anne. I think this was the episode because it has like kind of like a direct connection to a future episode with like just the Mossman appearing. That's what kind of made everyone give Wally and Anne a second look. And then people came for the reference, but kind of stayed for like the character development between Anne, that Anne had while with Wally. So like Toe Tax, I can see why it's underrated. Like something like New Warwood, I can kind of see, but for Wally and Anne, like I kind of have to disagree. But I'm kind of glad I can say that.
It gets the respect it deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like I've mentioned Wally and Anne before. I think it was with Crispy when we were doing the Calamity Beatdown stuff. Like Wally and Anne is just like, I don't know. It feels like such an important part in Anne's journey as a character, because I think Anne fundamentally hasn't understood. I'm gonna keep mentioning self-worth again, but it's a big part like of Anne's journey in season 1, right? Where Anne is again, her value as a person is always put onto other people. So she constantly clings on like to Sasha and Marcy to kind of tell her what to do all the time. She doesn't really believe in herself and her own abilities, right? So she's constantly clinging on to get other people's approval, right? So I really liked how Wally and Anne is kind of that point where Anne is like, oh, I can like it's the point where Anne can realize like, oh, I can like choose my own destiny. I can have my self-worth determined by myself and not by other people. Like it definitely feels like a crucial part of like Anne figuring out who she is. And I think that plays a big thing once we get to season 2 as well. But it's definitely the point where Anne is like the ideas in her head. You know what I mean? Oh yeah.
Honestly, yeah, I don't think I really have anything to add to everything that's been said. Like, I've just been thinking, but yeah, I think, yeah, I'll just air what Tom's saying. Just, yeah, I'll just air what you guys are saying. I mean, it's super nice that Wally and Ann, yeah, I don't know. See, because I'll agree. I don't think it's really underrated, but I think I don't know. I'll say it is great that everyone can just sort of like recognize the greatness of this episode, but um, yeah, I don't know. Because I think it's just like I think it is a nice reminder that yeah, we all feel like at the end of the day, you know, we all just sort of like appreciate that sort of earnest spirit that's in a lot of Amphibia's episodes. Even so, we're like even so, you know, we'll even so, Christ, you know, at times it'll be like we're trying to tear each other's throats out, like the fandom, like it's like crazy. But like I don't know. I guess all I'm saying is it's great that Wally and Ann that we can say, nah, I think people give it justice. I don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was a really good. It is a really good segment to talk about the end of this recording. Like,
Yeah.
I guess to wrap up, like, yeah, these were all very. This is a very interesting conversation tonight. Like,
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to have like a a
Yeah.
debate on truck stop poverty. Like that's the last episode where I'm like, oh, there's gonna be a huge debate. Like,
Yeah.
nah, like,
Yeah,
but
he was ready to like murder my second Oscar. He was ready. He was so ready that I said mother of Olms.
yeah, but I think that concludes tonight's recording, and thank you guys so much for coming on. And um, next week's topic, I think we're ready to go back to season retrospectives. So the next recording is probably going to be the first half of season 1. So looking forward to talking about season 1 again. We'll try to keep it high level because you know the episode discussions kind of go into the nitty gritty. So looking forward to that.
yeah.
And thanks for listening. Say goodbye, everyone.
See you
Peace,
guys.
everybody.
See ya.